Hey ho! Let's go! Fantasy baseball now. Baseball is on fire. We are here to cover all the bases on this Wednesday evening. Deluge of rain here in Albany, but that's okay. The sun is smiling for at least some baseball fans. But before we get to all that and all the great updates around the winter meetings in Major League Baseball, we begin the show by asking you the question, where else would you rather be than right here, right now? You are looking live at our split studios, Albany, New York, Philly Burbs. This is Fantasy Baseball Now, episode 17, part of our show, part of the Ball9.com podcast network, with a combined 70 years of fantasy baseball experience. Mike and I here talks Major League Baseball with a fantasy baseball spin. My friend, how are you on this Wednesday evening?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm fine.
You've been busy.
How about that Jonathan Loaizaga signing by the Yankees today?
You've been busy.
It's pretty exciting. It's interesting. The winter meetings always come with so much anticipation.
Sure they do.
They always come with so much anticipation. And until like last year, Ohtani didn't sign until after the winter meeting, so the big domino didn't drop until afterwards. This year, the big domino dropped at the very beginning, and we'll talk about that. I'm sure you can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah, I dug up an old shirt out of mothballs. You've probably seen it before.
Mets. Oh, I thought you had your number 22 New York Yankees Hal Morris jersey on.
No. Mets. You know what? Hey, before we'll dive right into the winter. It's something's going on here. It's cold in the house. I gotta fix that. Hold on a second. Let me.
It's cold in the house. It's December.
Yeah, there we go.
Is that a New York Knicks hat?
No, it's a Metropolitan's winter hat. Keep my baldness, keep the heat in.
Yeah. Now instead of being a dickhead, you're a dickhead with a condom on top of it. So that's great. That's nice.
And a Mets shirt.
Yeah. Look. I'm not as upset about it as I thought I was going to be, because when you knew, thank you, Nancy,
otherwise you know who Nancy is, right?
Not anymore. I don't.
That's the pseudonym for the big man in Massachusetts who has chosen to join us here this evening.
Yeah, well, I don't know Nancy anymore. Nancy's off my list of people. Enjoy the second iteration of Chris Sale, Nancy, when Crochet falls off his scooter and blows his arm out and ruins any chances. And I'm more interested in that trade to see which one of these guys is the Yoan Moncada of the trade. You know, the guy that's supposed to be phenomenal and then never pans out. So the Soto thing, we talked about this when we were talking about where he was going to go and the amount of money and payroll flexibility that Cohen had. And it wouldn't have mattered. I don't think it would have mattered what the Yankees offered. He was not going to lose Juan Soto. And the aura, and this is an interesting question, because I keep saying, well, Jeter stayed for less money, or Jeter stayed for less money, Judge stayed for less money. I'm not 100% sure the Yankee aura with Latin players is what it is with American players, like the attachment to the pinstripes. So Boris did a great job. Boris redeemed himself, clearly. Redeemed himself with a Blake Snell contract, redeemed himself with this contract, set the market. It's a terrible contract. It's a great contract for Juan Soto, and it's a great contract for the Mets for a period of time, but it's not a great baseball contract when, like, put it in context. Look at the Mets starting rotation. So do you, and they still have a hole potentially at first base, but they still have a lot of money. So they still have ways to fix their team. From a Yankee perspective, are three, $28 million to $32 million players a year to fix all the holes that kept them from winning the World Series a better move than signing one player. So I'm not, look, he's still my favorite player. I don't care where he plays.
Is that going to hold?
And that's a message. And that's a message to all the rest of the people in the Tri-State Baseball Federation who thought that I would react and be pissed off and want to trade him immediately. You, Nancy, being one of those people. You also, Sean, Bob, Bob made me a trade offer on Sunday night at midnight. Like the second it got announced, 5 minutes later, I got a trade offer. Julio Rodriguez for Juan Soto. So I countered. Julio Rodriguez and Bryce Harper for Juan Soto. How bad do you want him, Mr. Met? How bad do you want him? Like, I'm willing to trade him, but I'm not willing to trade him. And I won't consider trading him until all the ping pong balls land.
Sure.
Right. So the big man made me a great offer, but with Pete Alonso in it, if Pete Alonso goes back to the Mets, I actually think he's more valuable fantasy wise as a Met than he would be if he signed with the Yankees. And he's certainly more valuable than if the Nationals swoop in and get him. Because he's going to be in a lineup that's got a little bit more productivity. So, it creates a hole. There's no doubt about it. He's a generational talent, but I'm not nearly as upset about this as I would have been had Judge signed with the Giants last year. I would have lost my mind over that.
The interesting part about it is, I think Hal Steinbrenner, who I've mocked openly for a few years, he gets a pass on this because and you're right, he could have matched it. He could have gone 15 years and paid the money, and Steve Cohen would have tacked on another 50, right?
Right.
And so Steinbrenner, but here's the box he's in now, and I talked about this morning with the big man. Boston's in that box, and Toronto, if they can find someone to take their money, because they tip their hand that they're willing to spend a ton of money this offseason. Well, now you got to do something with that.
Well, Toronto did it last season as well.
Yeah.
And Ohtani's contract and Soto's contract that don't help them one iota in dealing with Vladdy Guerrero. Not one bit.
No.
Because Vladdy's now, what's he going to be? 25, 26, same age when he hits free agency? And, does he think he's going to get, 16, 760? Probably not. But he's going to want to get 16 for 700. And that 760 is actually 800 because if he opts out, that's a great one. If he opts out after year 5, if he doesn't opt out after year 5, the salary bumps $5 million. So it's really an $800 million contract. And Cashman said that the rumors that they were told they would get last chance to match weren't true. Like, it was put your best offer in. This is the last best offer. And then they waited a week. A week went by while he poured through what he was going to do. So there's no leaks out of Boston. I can't see where Boston would have went over 650, which would have been that's a big swing for the Red Sox given what they haven't spent the last 3 years. I mean, Toronto was probably 700-ish.
What about the rumors that, and it seems like they're kind of, I don't know, they wouldn't give him a free suite, and that turned them off. That stuff, I don't know why that's out there. I don't want to hear about some security guard pissing him off because he wouldn't let his driver in somewhere.
Who gives a fuck?
Is that just somebody trying to just soften the blow that he left?
And for you Yankee fans that are burning number 22 jerseys, just like fans of any other team that burn a jersey, grow the fuck up. Like, grow up. Like, honest to God. Like, what are you, 6? Grow the fuck up. Thank you, Kurt Flood. There's free agency in baseball. He made a decision. How about focus on what's on the team and stop worrying? And Yankee fans are perfect at this, as I shared with one of my ex-friends, Alex B, who we have a lot of Nick conversation with, who's a Met fan. I shared with him that I'll engage with him on the Met side, but on the Yankee side, but I'll keep all the receipts on the Met side. But today I'm like, this is not receipt worthy. No fan base is better at getting over things while not getting over it than the New York Yankee fans. None. Nobody. Like, I'm sure Red Sox fans are still pissed off they don't have Mookie Betts, but I don't see 800,000 tweets, posts, X's, whatever the fuck they're called anymore, from Red Sox fans when Mookie goes 4 for 5 saying, well, we should have never traded him. And we don't, like, I don't see any of that. But Yankee fans, you see it all the time. Sonny Gray has a good start. Well, he sucked here anyway. What game? Like, kid, he doesn't play for the team anymore. Worry about the players that are wearing a uniform.
Here's a question I want to go to. And yeah, look, I'm going to bust your stones all night and all off season over this. Okay. So
yeah,
buckle up. The Yankee Mystique. This is not, it's not what it was during the Jeter run, the 3 World Series in 4 years. They're no longer the ultimate destination. 20
they didn't need it
years
then.
ago, the top PH and Jami was going to New York. Musina going to New York. It was just automatic that they were going to get him.
You know when the Mystique was created? The Mystique was created in the 70s when George spent whatever he wanted to spend on whoever he wanted to spend. That's 50 years ago. The last 30 years of Yankee baseball is not, we're going to go out. Everybody's going to run here. We're going to use the Yankees as leverage to create a deal. They don't spend like that. I mean, go through the list of guys like Garrett Cole. That was a huge spend for them after a very long time.
Yeah.
They spent money on retaining their own players for years. They weren't going out and signing big free agents. They haven't done that forever. And they didn't sign. The other part of this that people lose track of is Juan Soto did not go to the Yankees by choice.
True.
He went to the Yankees because the Padres sent him there. So he turned down 15 years for $440 million when he was in Washington. And he turned that into 16 years for $760 million in 3 years.
It's pretty good.
Man.
Pretty good.
I thought eggs were expensive. Holy crap.
Breaking news. Juan Soto will wear 22 for the Mets, taking it from third baseman Brett Beatty. So, because I just read that on Twitter, and we know if it's on Twitter, it's real.
Exactly. The National Twitter Inquirer. So,
yes.
So what's funny about that is there's something in the collective bargaining agreement that there can't be merchandise from the player that wore it before. So he would have had to buy all of the number 22 Beatty merchandise off every market to be able to wear number 22.
He can afford it.
Oh, I'm sure he can.
He can afford it. It's got the scratch.
I mean, Ohtani gave Joe Kelly's wife a Porsche last year when Joe Kelly delivered a Porsche to her house. I mean, I'm sure he got a $75 million signing bonus.
And then shared his 5-leg parlay that he had going that weekend on some NBA action with the Kelly.
Yeah. If Curry would have only hit that 3, she would have got 2 Porsches.
Now the Yankees made some moves. I don't love it.
Let's stay on Soto for just a second.
Hey, I'll talk about Soto all night.
Let's talk about Soto from a fantasy value standpoint.
Yes, he looked great on my team.
So I know you tried. I'll give you that. I mean, a Jose Ramirez offer was the most compelling offer that I got, but Jose Ramirez is 32 and Juan Soto's not. So do you think his value is greater, less, or the same as it was 2 weeks ago?
That's a great question. It's hard to answer that because I don't know exactly what the lineup's going to be around him. I think he's so good that his value is going to be high no matter where he is, no matter what situation it is.
Right.
Okay. Now he's not in Yankee Stadium anymore, and that certainly helps.
Yeah, but
But
he hits well at
he
Citi
can
Field.
hit. He can hit anywhere, so doesn't matter.
Potentially, he would run more on the Mets. He wasn't going to run. He wasn't going to run in front of Judge. They didn't allow
Yeah.
him to. So stolen bases were down. So he could get an uptick in. He could get an uptick in stolen bases, but like with that vaunted pitching staff that they have, if they're playing for nothing in September, how interested is he going to be?
We
They're
went to
still the
the
third best team. They're still the
NLCS.
third best team in their division.
Went to the NLCS.
So did the Diamondbacks went to the World Series. They're not the best team in the West.
The best team in New York. They own New York.
Oh, fuck.
Which is it? The Kings in New
They
York.
own New York. You know what the Dodgers and Giants realized? They had to move to be relevant. They had to move from New York to be relevant.
Oh man.
Come on.
Let's go, Mets, go.
And the Boston Braves went to Milwaukee because they couldn't be relevant in Boston. There's one team in these cities. St. Louis Browns went to Baltimore. We'll talk about them in a minute too.
Are they aware that the winter meetings are going on?
Clearly they're not.
Well, he's still moving fences.
Well, they did pick up Gary Sanchez. That's a huge get.
Yeah.
Apparently they filled the Anthony Santander hole with Tyler O'Neill. It's interesting they decided to move the wall in left field again. What are they gonna do this every year? And they signed 2 right-hand bats and after they moved the wall in.
I want to call
and their GM was joking about that at the winter meetings.
Here's a stat I saw. I don't know if it was Not Guy Eddie. Max Fried career's record 73-36. Good for him. I didn't know it was that good. I think the Yankees overpaid. Was that a reaction with that contract? And by the way, Bob Nightingale from USA Today, you're a moron, dude. He came out and said that the A's were one of the most aggressive suitors for Max Fried. I'll get on the A's in a little bit. But are you serious?
He might be.
Serious? He's
given
not.
What they paid Severino, he might be.
Aggressive suitor, that's he wouldn't even pick up the phone for them.
Yeah, I know. They're the Uber driver. Okay. They're the Uber driver that took him to the Yankee, Red Sox, and Met and Dodgers and Phillies meetings that he had.
They're like me going into a college bar 35 years ago, hoping to, meet someone. That just never was going to happen.
Actually, more like 35 minutes ago. But yeah,
maybe. But yeah, you get my.
I do. So, I mean, it's the richest contract ever for a left-hand pitcher. So, do I think they overpaid? Yeah.
Did they have to? Maybe they had to spend that money to show that. I don't know. Or maybe that's just the market now.
Well, the market's the market because Nathan Eovaldi got paid way more than I thought he was. Severino and Eovaldi got paid way more than I thought they would ever get. So the market for
Severino, that's a scam contract.
The market for pitching is the market for pitching. But Severino's contract's manageable enough that it's manageable enough that he'll always and it's got options, it's got opt-outs in it. But if they decided at the trade deadline they wanted to trade him to a contender, his contract's something you could take on.
Well, you know why they did that, right? Here, well, the graphics department was busy today.
What? Because they needed to have somebody on the roster in Sacramento.
They have to get up to about 105 million in payroll and they're 27 short now. They had to do it because the MLBPA is going to file a grievance against them.
Yeah, they were 62 million last year.
Yeah.
They're trying to extend Brent Rooker now. That's the next step.
Yeah. And so that's where they're doing it. And they said they would raise once they get to Sacramento. And the cheapest season ticket there is an average ticket price, $75 per ticket.
What?
Yeah. That's the cheapest ticket.
Well, it only seats 43 people. So
yeah.
They still won't fill it.
Something. But yeah, so they have to hit a threshold now. That's the only reason they're spending money. And Severino, good luck. I have no ill will against him or any of the players, but
No.
let's not get carried. And by the way, that's $1 million more than Eric Chavez, the previous biggest contract in the history of the franchise. And Eric Chavez, he was a Moneyball, for crying out loud. That's how long it's been since they spent any money. So it's convenient.
Soto's contract is equal to the last 8 years of total payroll of the A's.
That's funny. Sad and funny.
Well, yeah, I mean, all the you and I have both been chiming in on salary floor today on Twitter, and it just goes to show you that, like, to allow for baseball to allow a team to spend $62 million, that's on baseball. That's on the Players Association.
Sure.
That's egregious. That's egregious. So but the Pirates spending 90, also egregious, right? You got a beautiful ballpark. You're going to spend $90 million in payroll. It's a joke. So back to Fried. Do I think they overpaid? Yeah, I do. Do I think they went 2 more years and I would be comfortable with? Yep, probably. Do I think it's a good signing? Yeah, pitching wins in the playoffs. So now you look at a rotation that's got Cole, Fried, who's not been great in the playoffs, by the way, Rodon, Luis Heel, unless he's in this rumored package for Kyle Tucker that's floating around, and Clark Schmidt. I'm okay with that as a Yankee fan. And then you've got 5. Fried's value to me doesn't change one iota in fantasy, not one bit, because it's not like he was a good pitcher in Tampa, like on a 78 win team, and then went to a 96 win team, where he's going to get more run support, more wins, and be able to hang around more. He is what he is. What he also is, which is a little scary for him, he's a little injured.
Yeah, one thing for Fried, I just noticed, I called up his career stats. He's almost a strikeout an inning, and that surprises me a little bit. I would have had him
down this year, though. It would have been higher before this year. When he came back this year, he was not a strikeout an inning guy.
I don't know what it is. This screams Sonny Gray to me. I don't know why. That's why I sent you that message the other night.
I don't think so. I don't think so. He's friends with Garrett Cole. That's going to help. They're friends. He's pitched on teams with high expectation. Like whatever the market is in Atlanta and whatever you want to say about their fans, as I've said a number of times, the expectation to win in Atlanta is still real. Like, they expect to win every year, and rightly so. And rightly so.
Which is why you should trade for Matt Olson and send me Juan Soto when I'll throw in a kicker.
Yeah. Yeah, I should have done my
second baseman in Houston.
And then I think the thing that's most important in this is that now the Yankees need to move Ben Rice back, the catcher.
Yes.
So we can have Fried Rice as a battery. That's the thing that's going to be the best.
You have to have that, and you got to put it on the menu. You make a killing. You can make that money back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's free. It's free with a $35 chicken bucket.
Now, your old friends, my old friends, they got busy. They woke up in Boston.
Well,
and they were telling me they didn't give up any of the top guys, Marcelo Mayer and a few others.
It's hard for me to figure out, because of the 2 teams involved, if it's the Red Sox being really shrewd and smart, or if they're so fucking inept in Chicago right now, and Jerry Reinsdorf. Jerry, this stinks like an Oakland thing to me, where I'm going to drive the payroll down into the 70s.
Yep.
And then hold the city of Chicago hostage for a stadium. It's a great trade for the Red Sox. I'm leery of a guy who's pitched for a year and a half in the big leagues making demands before he gets traded. Like, I don't know, like, the ball's on you to tell me that I'm not taking a trade unless I get an extension.
I agree.
But he's unbelievably talented. And the Red Sox needed him in the worst way. They certainly, when Plan B was bringing Nick Pivetta back, this is far better than Plan B. His fantasy value goes up immeasurably because his counting stats will go up because he'll pitch more, and his whip and ERA or his whip and ERA, they are what they are. That's not going to change just because he went there, and he's pitching in Fenway, and he's pitching on a team that's light years better offensively. You can't even calculate how much better the Red Sox are offensively than the White Sox. It's a great trade for them. Now, is it a good trade for the White Sox? Who knows, right? When they did get two really, really good prospects, the catcher's supposed to be really good, might be in the big leagues this year, but the last time the Red Sox and White Sox made a deal with a pitcher involved, there's none of those players left in a White Sox organization. Yeah, and that wasn't 25 years ago. That was 7.
Here, I want to talk.
So what I take from this is that the 2030 National League Cy Young Award winner will be Garrett Crochet in Atlanta. That's what I take from this.
It worked out pretty good for Chris Sale.
It did.
Rumors. You mentioned it. The Tucker rumor. The Yankees might be interested. He's got 1 year left. Luis Heel was the name I saw today. You just said pitching wins in playoffs. How would that trade sit with you? Are the Yankees good enough on offense to trade a starter? And Tucker's great. If you could be looking at a 1 year guy.
If you told me they were going to roll the dice like they did with Soto for a year and then have to go into the crapshoot to re-sign Tucker, I would not be thrilled. I would rather send Clark Schmidt than Luis Heel. If you told me that they made the trade and the next day they announced a 14-year contract with Kyle Tucker, I will drive Luis Heel to Houston. I'll drive him. I won't even have him get on a plane. I will drive him. I'll stop and see the world's biggest ball of string. I'll stop in Nashville for some music. Whatever he wants to do, I'll sidetrack to Mount Rushmore. He can see America for all I care. And they can put Jason Dominguez in the car too. I don't give a shit. Kyle Tucker's that good. And when you look at Kyle Tucker side by side with Juan Soto, it's not a lot different, to be honest.
Was that not Gaetti had that today? Or
yeah,
Emily?
Emily. I was shocked by that.
Yeah.
Juan Soto misses 0 games. Kyle Tucker misses games.
Yeah.
But he's 28 years old. And Jim Crane has never signed anybody in Houston to a contract longer than 6 years. And he does. And while Tucker does not have Scott Boras, he's got XL Sports as his agent. He's going to get a minimum 12-year deal. And it's going to be for like 12 years. It'll be closing in on somewhere between 575 and 625 million. It's going to be a massive contract because his productivity, that left-hand bat and that great defense in Yankee Stadium, he'd be a perfect fit. But I'm like the prospect thing. It is like I don't really care. I've never cared if prospects end up being great someplace else. I don't care. Like I'm trying to win. If you have the prospects and you don't trade them and you're just hugging them, which is a criticism of the Yankees for years. And I get it. Heel won Rookie of the Year, despite the fact I didn't think he should have. Like, I get it, but does that mean, well, like, was that the ceiling this year, or can he get better? It would be a good trade if they could find a way to get it done. It would be a good trade for both teams because clearly they're not going to sign him. I'd certainly rather have the Yankees attached to Tucker than the other Astro that they're starting to get attached to, who I don't want.
He's the other guy. He might be getting ready to hit that cliff. Well, he's just so likable too.
He's a Boris guy, and Boris is asking for too much money for him.
It's Alex Bregman we're talking about, by the way.
He's already declined, right? He's gone from a top 5 third baseman and in a dynasty league, a keeper player in a period of 2.5 years to a guy that, I guess I need a third baseman. I'll take a flyer on.
Yeah.
from a fantasy perspective. Now he's a good glove. He's a good clubhouse guy. I still think he's going to end up in Detroit or back in Houston. I don't really see any other path anyplace else for him. But Boris wants a lot of money for him. And he's relatively young, but kind of like Korea. Like you get to be as good as you are, and then you're just not as good anymore. And then the expectation doesn't mirror up with the actual. And then like you start turning on players. I mean, we do it all the time in fantasy. That's what we do. Right? It's what we do. This guy's supposed to be great, they're not, and then all of a sudden they're on you're in my list of I'm never having this guy on my friggin' team again under any circumstance. Alex Bregman's like starting to get on that slope, right? Where like I had him, he screwed me, I'm never having him again. Like that's but same thing, right? So his value, if he signs, so let's just say he stays in Houston, his value is his value. No change. He's on the same team. There's no real change. Alonso goes back to the Mets. His value probably goes up a little bit because now Soto's in that lineup. Bregman goes to Detroit. His value probably, to me, goes down because then he's counted on to be like a cog in a lineup. He goes to New York. He goes to the Yankees. I think his value goes. I think he takes a little bit of a bump down initially because you got to see if he can play in New York.
Yeah. Not easy, not for everyone.
And Houston to New York's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. I mean, the fan expectation is one thing. Fan expectation in Houston is pretty high, and deservedly so. They have had a great run. But the media coverage isn't the same. And the scrutiny's not the same. He took a lot of crap last year from Houston Astro fans. A lot. Like I'm connected with a lot of Astro fans, and they were all over him last year. And like trade him at the deadline. We're not going to sign him. We don't want him. And now all of a sudden, maybe we should bring him back. But Boris wants 10 years for him, and Crane's not going to give him 10.
That's crazy. What about Burns? Burns is a West Coast guy. I've heard the Giants.
Yeah, I've heard Buster Posey's like that's his number one target. He did a good job signing Adames. So he's off to a pretty good start with his reign in San Francisco, and he's already demonstrated that what he said, which is I'm bringing the Giants back to relevance, is not like just BS. I think Burns in San Francisco would be great for Corbin Burns. It's a pitcher's park. I think he'd be phenomenal there. It's too quiet around him. Don't you think? I think it's too quiet.
Very quiet around him, and that goes back to what Baltimore's not doing.
I would have thought that he would have signed before Fried. So maybe I wonder what his contract. I mean, if the Yankees were willing to sign Fried for that money, and they were talking to both Fried and Burns, and they still might be talking to Burns for all we know. What's Burns asking for if Fried got that?
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
Well, the other I was going to tell you,
in the context of Eovaldi and Severino both getting quote unquote overpaid.
Eovaldi got 3 for $75, I think, right?
Hey, almost doubled his pay.
3 for $75.
He almost doubled his contract.
I'm curious of Adames because he was a second option to a lot of teams, the fallback to Soto. Did he leave some money on the table by signing first?
Probably, but still life-changing money.
Sure.
I mean, what are we talking about? 10 million? I mean, 10 million is a lot for you and me. 10 million a lot.
Yeah.
10 million is not a lot when, in the context of a couple hundred, 400 million. What's 10 million? You know what I mean? It's like, and maybe he's just one of those guys that wants to be settled.
Maybe.
I mean, he's been traded, right? He was traded from Tampa, so he's been traded. Maybe he just likes that. Maybe he just wants to get comfortable as fast as he possibly can. And maybe maybe that's what he told his agent. Just like get me the best deal that you can get me, and let's just get this done so I can get to work.
There's another
He plays
guy.
like that. He plays like that kind of player, right? He plays like that kind of player where he's not going to be satisfied with how good he is at the moment. He's always trying to become a better player. So maybe that's the way he approached the negotiations. The Rangers, the trade for Berger is an interesting trade to me. Because they say they're going to play him at DH, but he can also play first base and third base. And I love that DH flexibility where now you can give Young a day at DH, you can give Lowe a day at DH, and you've got that option. It's why, on the fantasy side, we never value, though Osuna had a phenomenal year last year, Osuna, Stanton, the DH only guys, Jorge Soler, those guys don't get as much value because they're if you have DH as a roster spot and not utility, they're crammed into one specific roster spot, and you can never do. They're never going to get to a game's play threshold where if they're going well, I can tinker with my lineup and take them out or move them to get somebody else in because they're clogging up a spot, much like they do on their regular roster.
I had that issue with Schwarber last year. He's too good to take out, and then they gave him a glove and he got hurt. It does jam it up.
They won't do that again. I can guarantee you that.
Schwarber's he's one of the exceptions to the rule. Rooker didn't play enough outfield to qualify last year in our league. He never got to 20, but some of those guys, it does get clogged up. It's a good option to fall back to.
So since you mentioned the Phillies, the Jordan Romano signing, that's what made me think about whether players had more or less value from a fantasy perspective, because I can't decide if Romano has more value as the Phillies closer if he's healthy. So that's the if, right? So if he's healthy and he comes back, or if he had more value as the Blue Jays closer. So on face value, the Phillies are going to win 20 more games than the Blue Jays, then he should have more value on the Phillies. In reality, the Phillies won more games 10-2 than the Blue Jays were in the entire season. And does he get more save opportunities because there's more close games in Toronto than he will in Philadelphia? It's a good signing either way. He's going to be a must-get closer. He's going to be a must-get closer in in drafts, because the Phillies are still going to be good. They're not getting they're not worse. They're going to trade Alec Boehm at some point. That's going to happen.
Thompson said they're not talking about him. Was that just bullshit?
It's total bullshit. It's total and complete and absolute bullshit. It's total bullshit. He's been rumored to the Yankees. He's most rumored, and most of the conversation in Philadelphia is Seattle.
Yeah,
is the deal they're trying to work some kind of deal with Seattle to get one of the pitchers back and a bullpen arm, and Boehm go there, and then they've tossed a third team into this thing a couple of different times, and there's a bunch of stuff going on. And I think the rumor mill part that's the most shocking to me, and to me it's the owner that has the most to show that he's not the old owner, is what's not happening in Baltimore.
Yeah, nothing. They didn't do anything at the trade deadline to get better last year. And if they're being active, quiet behind the scenes, they're doing a real good job of it, because there's
they're like the CIA if they're behind the scenes doing nothing. I mean, there's more rumors about Kansas City and Pittsburgh than there are about Baltimore. And I don't, maybe it's quiet with Corbin Burns because they're trying to go all in to keep him. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Tyler O'Neill replacing Santander, that shows you that they were willing to go cheap and not retain Santander. and that smells like Angelo stuff, not like this new owner that's promised that it's going to be a different regime.
Yeah.
I mean, Gary Sanchez. I mean, okay, all right. I mean, okay, fine. I mean, yeah, okay, but like, okay, he can spell Rushman behind the plate twice a week, and good luck. Good luck
Here,
with the defensive part.
here's another. I want to throw another name at you because I think you like this guy. Is Nolan Arenado still good enough to be commanding kind of some attention here? I only have 6 teams on my no trade list. This is it. 70 runs, 71 RBI, 16 homers last year, 272. That's, you take the name away, that's average baseball player.
And a little bit of diminishing defense
Yeah.
from one of the greatest defensive third basemen that's ever played the game.
Yes.
So what made him a must-have player, even after he went to St. Louis, was he was going to play every day because his glove was so good, but he produced power and drove in runs, and did it hitting 270 to 285 to 290 ish. He didn't do any of that last year. He didn't do any of that last year. Now, was last year an anomaly? He's not that old. I think he's only 34.
33. He'll be 34 in April.
Yeah, so it'd be 34 when the season starts. He's not that old where he doesn't have 3 probably really good years left in him. And he said he would, and he has said he would play first base. So
here's a question. This goes back to last week. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Oh,
no, I say no.
I say no because he's going to get, unlike Larry Walker and he's going to get more core scrutiny than Todd Helton got.
Is that fair?
No.
Life isn't fair, but
hey, Battlefield Bob. No. It's not fair, but it's realistic to give him that, to put that on him.
I got to show Bob my shirt in case he didn't see
it. Because if you, I think his Hall of Fame candidacy will be defined by the next 3 years of his career. Because he was very productive in St. Louis when he got there, and he wasn't last year. And if he's not productive for the next 3 years as a hitter, it's going to really hurt him. He'll end up in the Veterans Committee or the Eras Committee.
Yeah, 34 is not old in baseball.
No,
he should have another 5 good years. No, not 5, but 3 or 4.
No, but like he's not a guy like, I mean, everybody will waive their no trade clause if everybody will change their no trade clause if the circumstance is right. Like Trout's got a full no trade clause, and he said he'd only waive it for Philadelphia. But if the Orioles decided they want him, he might decide that's close enough to Philadelphia to waive his no trade clause. If the
maybe
Nationals decided they wanted him, that might be close enough. If he got a chance to play for the Yankees, that might be close. I mean, maybe he's one of those U.S. born players where the pinstripes would be important for him to have on his legacy. I don't know. So I think everybody will waive it if the circumstances right. I mean, the fact that Arenado's got the Angels on his list just shows me that and speaking of rumors, that Gleyber Torres is going to end up there.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
No, Arenado, to be fair, he's from Newport Beach. He's from down there.
Yeah. So that makes sense. So it makes sense that he'd have the Angels, the Padres, and the Dodgers on his list. It makes perfect sense, right? He's a West Coast guy, Southern California, not San Francisco area. Because I thought about that when the Giants weren't on there. I mean, I did look. I mean, it makes sense, right? So I don't know. I mean, the smoke's around him. The Christian Walker smoke with the Yankees pretty real, I think.
I didn't realize he was 34.
Yeah, he's a Platinum Glove first baseman now, and he
Yeah,
drives.
no, he's a player.
And he drives runs in. I mean, he's a run producer. So he would be an upgrade at first base over Rizzo for sure. And then and then Goldschmidt's out there, and then the rumor is if Walker leaves and the Diamondbacks don't really want him to, then Goldie goes back for the last hurrah in Arizona. So I think the puzzle pieces are starting to come together as some of these guys come off the board, but there's still some real names floating around. I mean, there's still some, Alonso and Burns still being in the market.
Toscar's still out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Toronto's running at him. The Dodgers want to bring him back. I mean, he bet on himself and he brilliantly did so. He's gonna get a really good contract. And he's like a sleeper fantasy guy that you don't, can't really, I don't want to keep him, but I got to make it a priority to have him on my team because he's always produced. Like even in Seattle, he was, I mean, you can see what the difference that he made with them, the difference that him not being in the lineup made for them. Like him not being in the lineup in Seattle made a huge difference on their offense last year.
Well, their offense was absolutely putrid last year. I've heard Boston's trying to get one of their starters, Waving Cassis, possibly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they've got Boston's. I mean, we talk about their bats all the time, and I mean, I'm not going to hide the fact that I hate the Red Sox, but like from a fantasy standpoint, offensively, like you look at their lineup and you're like, there's a bunch of got to have guys on that team, and there's guys coming. So, I mean, they did fine without. I think they want to move Devers to first base at some point in the not too distant future, so Cassis becomes a chip. And they still need pitching, even though the Crochet trade happened, they still could use more pitching. Guy I'll watch for them and start looking for medical reports on as the season gets closer is Liam Hendricks.
Yeah,
because it sounds like
he come back.
it'd be a phenomenal story, but I mean, I think that they signed when they made the Chapman signing. Chapman signed with the understanding that Hendricks was the closer if he was healthy.
Okay.
He would get opportunity to close if it presented itself, but he was not getting signed as the closer in Boston. And Red Sox fans, good luck with him. Enjoy. When you got nothing when you're really good when you got nothing, when the games don't matter in Pittsburgh, but yikes.
Any words of wisdom for the Mets faithful who were out in the rain in Albany? As I was driving around today, I saw people on the street corner channeling their inner Andy Dufresne in the rain, saying, "We've now taken over New York City." Any words of wisdom for the New York Met fans with the Clay Holmes import?
Yeah. You're gonna make him into a starter, and he's your number 3 starter. So as much as you think you get what you're doing, you don't get what you're doing. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, how do you go all in, conceivably all in, and then go dirt cheap and convert a guy who, when was the last time a 34-year-old pitcher converted from a reliever to a closer? I got the answer to that. Never. It's usually the other way around. We're going to move him to the bullpen. We're going to make him a closer.
Might he be the 2025 Seth Lugo? Should we put that out there now?
We can. We can. We can put that out there now if we want to. More likely, he will be the 2025 Clayton Holmes. And he will get 3 outs on that ridiculous changeup, sinker change in the first inning on 11 pitches, and then give up 19 runs in the second. And you'll be trying to ship him, or you'll be putting him on a train back across town and trying to get him off your team. That's more likely what's going to happen. I don't understand I don't understand. I don't take the Soto thing out of it. Like right now, if they had not signed Soto, I would have no idea what the Mets were thinking. None. Maybe Steve Cohen, baseball card collector, has made a decision that the last time he decided to go all in and spend millions and millions of dollars, he did it on two pitchers, and that went terribly. So now he's going to see. So now he told the brain trust, like, forget about pitching, just go get all the bats you can possibly get, and we'll win 17-13, and the fans will be thrilled because you never know how the game's going to end up. Maybe, I don't know.
Showman, circus owner. All right. So now next week, we're scheduled to go live Wednesday, 2 p.m. It's a day game. Getaway.
It is a day game. It's pretty exciting, to be honest with you. It's pretty exciting. I mean, we are scheduled to go live on the 18th at 2 p.m. with former Sports Illustrated cover boy and Rockies and Pirates manager Clinton Hurdle as a guest of Fantasy Baseball Now, where he will talk about his new book, Hurdleisms, and we will get to talk to him about leadership. I'm sure we will sneak in there, as a guy that both played and was managing when fantasy baseball started, if he thought that had an impact on the perception that fans had on players. I'm sure that'll come up as a question, and it's pretty exciting, to be honest with you. It's
sure.
I'm pretty excited about this. He's a great follow on Twitter.
Yes.
His story's amazing. Not the baseball story. The baseball story is the baseball story. He's been in baseball. He was a bat boy when he was 4 years old down in Florida. So he's been around baseball for, now he's 57. He's 67 years old. So he's been around baseball for literally 53 years, 63 years of his 67 years on the planet. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a must watch if you can. Sometimes you got to acquiesce to the guest when they have time, and we've decided that this would be the time. I mean, if it was Vitale, we'd be like, fuck you, we're doing this at 8:30. We can move it up 30 minutes.
Get here at 8:20 anyway.
Yeah. The hard start is not a thing that El Jefe pays. Wow. Come on. Battlefield Bob, you bastard. No, that's not the one. The next one is the one. That's the one.
Ah.
That's the one. Yep.
Well,
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Soak it up. Yep. Soak it up. Everybody have your fun. Yeah.
For those want to tune in to Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve.
Everybody have your fun. Hey, I heard they just bought 30 goats in Sacramento to mow that field.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the heck?
Well, they gotta do whatever they can to save money, because they've never written a check like they're going to be writing to Severino.
The best thing about the largest contract in the history of the organization.
Yes, by $1 million. Chavez at $66 million.
Luis Severino.
Yes.
Good for him. Good for him. He was good
for him. Sure.
He was good for the Mets. He was really good for the Mets last year, and I'm happy for him because he was a hard thrower, and then he got hurt, and he's learned how to pitch, and that's good for him. I mean, it's great.
Well, the best part is, and you even said it, if he shows any ounce of aptitude in the first half, they're going to ship him off. They're not going to pay that. This is all cosmetic, just to get over that threshold.
Yeah.
They
do that. They do that. Extend Rooker, maybe extend Butler, maybe extend Langoliers, maybe extend the young, make a decision on some of their other young players and extend them while they can and get to that threshold. That's pretty easy, but it's not like they're going to run out and all of a sudden, trade for Devin Williams and give Devin Williams a 5-year, $78 million contract. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, they don't need to do that with him anyway. Maybe they extend Miller. I would. If I were them, and if I were them and I had to get to the threshold, I would take the Braves model and I would find my youngest guys. I'd be like, let's get a 5-year deal done right now. Like, let's get you, 5 for 100, and let's move on with our lives.
They're not smart enough to think that way. They're just trying to put lipstick on a pig as best they can and say, we're trying. Nobody will come here and play in front of 14,000 people in the cow town. It's 180 degrees on the playing surface because we're too fucking stupid to know what we're doing.
What's the funniest part about that is?
And we're never going to get to Vegas.
You and I are idiots, and we're smart enough to know that that's a good way to go. And they, run a baseball team, and they don't have that figured out.
Barely run a baseball team.
Well, running it into the ground is still running a baseball team.
They're an unserious group, and they're never going to get to Vegas unless they take Mr. Fisher's plane and go on vacation. It is never going to. Now they're already at 1.7 billion.
They just ponied up some more cash.
No, they didn't. No. The estimate came in that they're at 1.7 without overruns yet.
Well, and they're responsible for all of it.
All of it except for 380. But that cheap bastard ain't going to pay that. It ain't going to happen.
I find this is what I find interesting, because the same thing is going on in Tampa right now. And I've made no secret that Tampa shouldn't have a Major League Baseball team. They've not demonstrated. And if I lived in Pinellas County, I'd be out of my mind that we were spending a nickel on that team. It's interesting to me that the owner's perception of what the location is willing to do and the location's perception of what they're willing to do don't match up in either of these two cases. They're not even actually close. They're not, and the team speak around it talks about their level of commitment to these locations, yet what they do and what the cities say, they don't match up. I'm glad before we break that Bob brought that up. Because I forgot about the Jimenez trade.
Yes.
If I'm a team formerly known as the Indians fan, my first reaction is what? What did we just do? Now, if you baseball it, right? Like if you really baseball it and you look at him and as from an offensive standpoint, not the fact that he's got the highest runs saved in baseball at any position over the last 4 years of any player. Forget about that. What does that matter? The offensive production, aside from the stolen bases, it's a little bit of a hole. Like they dropped him in that lineup last year, and maybe they just grew frustrated. I mean, whether is Spencer Horowitz any good? I don't know. He's only been in the big leagues for 18 months.
I tried to get a Guardians fan on here tonight because she posted at least 20 things last night after that trade, and none of it was positive toward Paul Dolan or the group there, but she didn't get back to me. So
they did re-sign Bieber. They brought Shane Bieber back. Don't be shocked if they trade Josh Naylor during this.
I read that today too. He's next.
He's a free agent.
Okay.
He's a free agent. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if Jose Ramirez was coming into free agency and had not signed that deal?
Yeah.
What would he? I mean,
he'd get a lot.
He'd get pretty damn close to what Soto got. I don't think he'd get as much, but boy, he would get a haul.
Yeah, he would.
The same thing the same thing for Acuna and for. I mean, we'll see with Jose Albies next year because he's up. He was the first one. Albies is a free agent next year. We'll see. We'll see how smart the Braves were and what the market was at the time, and if they spent that 5 years that they had him under control developing his replacement while they were. I think they are. I think the Braves are smart enough that they probably have somebody ready to step in.
Yeah.
And take his place. Like, hey, we're going to have these guys for 5 years, and we got to have somebody ready to go in 5 years. I take 5 years. I would take 5-year cycles of young players that have me as a chance to win the division, under contract for 5 years, which makes me feel like my team's investing in these young players, and then run that back every 5 years. I'd take that the way they've done it. I would take that as a fan all day.
All right. So do you feel better? Do you feel cleansed? You weren't that upset, though.
No, I'm not. I am not nearly as upset as some of my brethren are.
How many trade offers did you get in the first 12 hours?
I got 5.
No, I would have guessed more.
Half the league.
I'm going to keep trying.
Half the league decided. So maybe they saw that because I traded Snell immediately after he went to the Dodgers, that I would be willing to do the same with Soto. And I was already thinking about keeping 4 pitchers out of 5 possible players. So trading Snell was, I'm not trading Paul Skeens. That's not going to happen. I don't think what I would want for Cole I would get based on last year. Hunter Green, who I love, and I think is going to be in the top 5 for. I mean, he got a what do you get, $1 million bonus for finishing in the top 5 for top 7 for Cy this year? I don't think he's going to be any worse, especially when you hear the chatter coming out of with Terry Francona as the manager and the conversations coming out of there already of their approach to pitchers, that their pitching coach wants their pitchers at 100 pitches by the end of spring training. And Francona's like, what do you like? What? He's like, yeah, our starters are going to be at 100 pitches by the end of spring training. We're going to be ready to go 100 opening day. And Francona's like, I thought it was 1990. he was like blown. He was completely blown. It's a great clip if you can find it. He said he was completely blown away by that thought process because he hasn't heard it in forever. So, I mean, I think Green's worthy of consideration in a dynasty league for sure. In a short dynasty league, not in a deep dynasty league, he's an automatic. In an L only dynasty league, he's an automatic. But when you got 4, Snell getting traded to the Dodgers had the highest value. Soto's different. Soto's going to be great no matter where he is, and I wanted Soto. I would have done Soto for Judge when Soto was on the Padres.
Yeah.
And age has a lot to do with that, because I just I got a guy.
Sure.
I'm going to have to.
He's a young 26.
He is a young. Well, if he is 26, that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for the great conspiracy. He's 31. He's 31 years. That he's 31 years old. But he's got a suite in City Field, and that's nice.
Free suite.
And he brings his own security. And like, that pettiness stuff makes me crazy. He signed someplace else. Let's go. Let's worry about who we got. Right? If I was a Met fan, I'd be thrilled. I would be over the moon that we signed. If I was a Met fan, I would be thrilled. I would be thrilled. I would be completely thrilled as I was as a Yankee fan when they traded for him. Yeah. So now, what's that trade look like from a Yankee standpoint? It looks like shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks terrible. Right? Higashioka got a nice 2-year deal in Texas. King was great.
Yep.
Thorpe is the ace. Thorpe is the number 1 starter in Chicago because he went in the Cease trade. I mean, that trade looks terrible. But none of those other three guys would have got the Yankees in the World Series last year.
Yeah, but you tried. You
So I'm
took
okay
a
with
shot.
it. And if you would have stayed, nobody would have ever talked about the trade again.
Yeah. No, you took a shot. It didn't work. Had a great year.
And that's what that's why I'm concerned with the Kyle Tucker thing. Is that unless they can, like, I would be so on board with it if they worked out a contract, negotiated a deal, made the trade, announced announced the 12-year, 13-year deal, whatever it is. I don't even care. Announced it like right after, but to go through once this kind of burn has happened, when you get excited about a guy on your team that's that young and you see him fitting in as a fan, you see him fitting in for 10, 12 years on your team, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
I get you feel like an Ace fan, to be honest with you.
I know what that feels like.
Or a Pirates fan.
Sadly. Yes.
Or a Pirate or a Rays fan, right? You develop this great player, all of a sudden they're fringe all-star, and then they move them. I mean, that's
boom, out of the pool. Can't pay him. Won't pay him.
Out of the pool.
Wow, you've a coming together of Mets fans and Yankee fans here.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not a coming together.
Let me get your shirt. I got more blue painter's tape upstairs.
Now that I would burn.
No.
That I would burn. Like if I haven't burned my Mark Sanchez jersey, I'm not burning anything.
I could send you one of these nifty Met caps off of Amazon and get them for Christmas.
You can't. You know what it'd be good for? I'll put a dog poop bag in it so that my hand's not cold when I pick up poop when I walk my dog.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Right. Hey, it's multiple use.
I was kind of hoping it was a Knicks fan, but so you're a big NBA guy, so I should have known better.
I am unbeaten in our fantasy basketball league.
I know you haven't been an NBA basketball fan since Mo Lucas was playing for the
pretty much
Trailblazers. That's right. That's pretty close.
Pretty
I don't think I'm exaggerating.
Not really.
No.
I mean, no.
I mean, that's 45. It's only 45 years ago, so I don't think I'm exaggerating.
You just follow
55,
the
maybe 55
position and hope nobody gets hurt. Pray I don't have to manage. All right, next week, Clint Hurdle, Wednesday, 2 p.m.
Yeah,
live.
All good. You can pre-order his book, Hurdleisms. Comes out February 22nd. We'll talk about it again next week. But pre-order his book. Follow him on Twitter. You'll see what's going to be in the book. It's unbelievable.
Sweet. All right. We'll see you all next week.
Peace. Fuck you, Juan Soto.